this guy over here played him, and we're going to get into that 2015 matchup in Dallas. Why I think this is really a very cool concept when you got Alabama. All right, I'm starting it over. I fucking burped twice. The first one I thought I could get away with, but the second one. All right, from the top. Alabama takes on Wisconsin. You guys know that. Showdown in Madison tomorrow. But what's cool is that this is only the second time that Alabama and Wisconsin have ever played on each other's campuses. The other one was 1928. Now, these two teams played in 2015, and that guy over there was the quarterback for Alabama when Wisconsin took the beatdown. We're going to talk about all that right here on Elephant in the Room on Cover Crimson. Thank you for hanging out with us. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as we hang out with you guys here on the channel. And let me go ahead and play the open. All right, he's Jay Coker. I'm Mick Gillispie, brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code next round. Double your initial deposit with MyBookie. mybookie.ag, promo code next round. Bama 2-0, Wisconsin 2-0. Luke Fickell against Kalen DeBoer. Alabama against Wisconsin. It's an 11 a.m. game. Get it out of the way early. Man, it's pretty fun. I like this, though, man. Like, I know it's Auburn's time slot. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get into the whole,
this will be nationally televised, though.
Yeah, and the other thing is that in the Big Ten, like, it's traditional.
This is their showtime.
This is their showtime, man. You know.
Can you imagine if 11 o'clock was the showtime in the SEC?
No, well, when I grew up, I wasn't far from Joe Paterno and Penn State. You know, that was like they were huge, and it was always 11 o'clock. You know, or it was really noon on the Eastern the time zone. And everybody cared, you know, Joe Pa and Penn State. I wasn't a fan. I honestly, I'm Catholic Irish. I was a Notre Dame fan until I came to Alabama.
Man, that's crazy. I don't even want to get into this, but it's just when you
You're
hear
take
Joe
shots
Pa,
at
Penn State, it's a different legacy.
Different now.
It's just man. I don't know when you even mention that. It's just it's golly. Anyway, next subject.
I get it, man. Like, we don't really know. It's crazy, man. I just think like you get so old that you don't pay attention to stuff. And when you don't pay attention to that kind of stuff, oh, man, terrible. Terrible.
Well, I don't think
terrible.
He probably wasn't running that program for the last 6 years of his life.
I mean, it was like, you know, it was like Joe Biden. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's there, but is he really there? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
So I get it. But Bama and Wisconsin, I love this matchup. I was reading a story on AL.com. They do a great job. I read them, you know, you do too every day. One of those guys is our friend Mark Heim.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Mark. But they were talking about how this matchup came to be, and it was basically Greg Burns' relationship with the athletic director.
Well, when was this game set up? I mean, it had to have been
a while ago.
Yeah, early on in Greg Burns' career at Alabama, I guess.
But he was friends with Barry Alvarez.
Okay.
And so that's how a lot of these matchups happen. But I think when people saw like that maybe the college football playoff was going to happen and you didn't have to win every game, you're not as afraid to take a risk. I mean, this is going to be a tough environment. And I know you've got the shamrock tattoo because you're a huge House of Pain fan. Do you remember House of Pain?
I know that. Well,
Jump around.
The thing about Wisconsin, and that is, it has become now one of my favorite traditions because
it's cool.
I don't know if you remember, but one of the first games back from COVID with packed out stadiums is they had, jump around, come on. It was a noon kickoff game. back in, what was it, 2022 when they packed out stadiums again?
Yeah.
Or was it 2021? I can't remember, but
21.
When they first lifted all that stuff and they had that come on, it was like, okay, we're back. I mean, outside of the college baseball World Series, and Arkansas had a packed out stadium that was, that was the first college football packed out stadium that we saw, or at least I saw on a nationally televised game. And ever since then, I've been like, man, that is awesome. I mean, that's college football. We're back to normal. Got some normalcy. It's just, it's one of those traditions I won't forget just based on that alone. But
what's your favorite college football tradition?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I mean, what are all the, it's pretty, I mean, when we got done playing games, it was always fun to, we had to go back to the locker room after the game and sing the fight song, the Alabama fight song in the locker room and count down the score. That was always pretty cool. Something I won't forget. But, when I was playing at Florida State, planting the spear was pretty cool. I mean, that was pretty awesome.
Cool. Yeah. I've been there for that.
Especially one of those packed out night games. We played Oklahoma my freshman year, and it was completely packed. Dark. They had the smoke gun, and Chief Osceola, planted that spear. That was pretty. That was one of those moments you never forget. That's got to be number one for me. I mean, I'm trying to,
Well, like the Ohio State dots the I, Tennessee runs through the T. I mean, there's some, I know, but I'm just saying, like, there's some cool stuff that they do. Now, I've been to Florida State, and that is like right up
the thing
there.
about Alabama is that, I don't know, there's winning is such a tradition. It's almost, there's not a whole lot of pageantry that goes along with winning because it's expected,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost just like a win's just another notch in the belt, and you move on to the next game. I mean, I guess championship parades, that's a pretty good tradition in Tuscaloosa.
Right. Well, yeah, with Nick Saban. I mean, I remember when that tradition really didn't happen that much. Yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like there was a time when we didn't have that.
You just knew every 3 or 4 years you were having a parade with Coach Saban around.
Man, I was at the first Saban parade, and I was like, I'd lived through. I mean, I'm going to age myself, and I know you look at me and you're like, there's no way. But I'm going to tell you right now, I remember Gene Stallings, who was great. And then Bob Bachroth kind of messed it all up. And then, we had, some other coaches, and it just didn't happen, right? And all of a sudden it was like that. There was this attitude. Well, it doesn't matter who's at Alabama, they're going to win.
Yeah.
And then we were just like kind of like Tennessee's been for the last 20 some years, where you became irrelevant. And then Saban shows up, we win that first championship. And I mean, I went to the 2009 team, and I've told you this is a special team to me because when I was in school, we lost to Auburn. We lost to LSU. We lost the bowl games if we made it. I mean, we went to Shreveport 3 straight years or something, or 3 years. I mean, and then this guy shows up, and he's like, they win, and he's like, we're not done. And he does the LeBron. We're going to win 2. We're going to win 3. I'm thinking, man, we're not winning 6 championships.
Yeah.
And then they, and then the next year they had the best team in the country that didn't win.
Yeah.
And then they rolled off back to back. And then after that, it was like, hey, this guy's serious about winning these championships.
Oh, yeah.
He was always in the mix.
Well, the thing about it was that, I mean, he won 1 at LSU, and you didn't know if that was if that was something that he could do over and over and over again. And then at Alabama, it was just, I mean, that's where, I mean, he made his name prior to that, obviously, but at Alabama, it was just like a championship factory.
Yeah, it was. Which is honestly crazy. I mean, like, And everybody's like, well, we're never going to see anything like this again. There's something about DeBoer. And I know that you're probably, some of you guys are going, man, no way. There, even though he's a really nice guy and he's, I just think that the guy's fires a little similar to Saban's in the way that I think, and we don't know what he's going to do when he wins his first championship. And I think that's where separates Saban from everyone else, is that he's working the next day. Kirby basically just copied Saban. You know what I'm saying? Like he just tried
He copied him, but you can't copy that character. I mean, Coach Smart. I mean, Kirby's just got it. I mean, he's basically the same guy. In abstract form. I mean, the guy he's got that work ethic. He's got that focus. I mean, he's a one-track mind, and it's football, football, football.
right.
And I don't know, Coach Smart, I think he's built about as close to Coach Saban as you can possibly be, but I still don't know. He makes jokes about not coaching as long as Coach Saban did. I mean, Coach Saban had to do it for so long just to be happy. It was like where he reached equilibrium was coaching football. And I think that's where he found a lot of his joy. That's where he found his purpose. And it was a huge part of his life. And obviously it's part of Coach Smart's, but I don't know if you'll ever find anybody with that kind of drive and that kind of, I guess, intensity and intention in terms of coaching football.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Or anything.
Coach Smart, he's the closest I've seen in terms of just fire and drive and passion about coaching and being perfect on the football field.
Yeah. But you know what, Coach DeBoer, he fits the modern player. I see a fire there with this guy. I think he's a lot smarter than some of the other coaches are going to give him credit for. Now, I think we're going to turn around and he's going to kick ass and people are going to be like, oh, okay. Because I see it, man. I think this guy I think he's going to take his lumps, but I think long-term he's going to do a great job.
Well, it's like you and I have talked about. He's Coach Saban. If he started coaching right now, I don't know if he can, his mentality and his coaching practices, fit the mold of what is needed for today's college game with the leverage that those players have. I mean, those guys got all the power now, and I mean, you can't coach them like you used to. They just leave.
Yeah. It's funny, when we had Ryan Anderson in, and he's like, yeah, I wanted to leave, but my mom wouldn't let me do it. He's glad now, Yeah. But I get it, man. I mean, I think I would have been a lot like that too. I've got a kid. He doesn't like me to tell him what to do. He doesn't want to hear me, at 12 years old, he doesn't want to hear me.
I think every kid hits that phase in college. I mean, for the most part, there's very few that just show up and have it figured out. They show up and they do no wrong. They've got their mind in the right place. They're driven the right way. They don't let the off the field attractions get to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen Amari Cooper's one of them. Rashad Green was one of them at Florida State. I mean, there's a handful of guys that have that mentality, and you don't see it very often. But I think for the 95% of players, they go through that phase. Seems like Ryan Williams is one of those guys too. But just don't let the outside noise conflict their minds and what they want, moving forward.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of what Nick Saban called rat poison, being able to handle success. And that's what I look at Coach Saban and think.
And opportunity. I mean, just opportunity itself.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing what you got right here in your hands. You could I mean, it's so easy to blow it, and you don't realize how fragile that opportunity is until it's gone.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Especially when you come out of high school and you got a million offers and you think it's always going to be around, and you're always going to be talented. Everybody's always going to want you. That ain't the case when you screw up.
Yeah, right, man. Yeah. I mean,
you also don't realize, I mean, when you're getting recruited, you don't realize how many guys are out there that are just as good as you are. There's
my dad used to tell, my dad you just reminded me of something. My dad used to tell me all the time, there's always somebody better. He used to say that all the time.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't like he was telling me that I couldn't be the best. It was that you always have to work to be the best.
Oh yeah.
Because there's always somebody better.
Yep.
And he was in the Army during Vietnam. I mean, he was a wrestler. Like he had his things, and like just climbing that ladder.
Yeah.
And different things in life. It's really great advice.
And there's so many, I mean, it's crazy to me, especially you think about college quarterbacks. I mean, there's so many guys that can play, and so many guys that didn't make it that could have made it if they're in the right situation. If they jive with their coach, if they, have somebody they can trust around them. You watch Tua in the NFL. I mean, that's kind of a good comparison or analogy. Look at him prior to that Mike McDaniel coming in. I mean, no confidence, doesn't jive well with the coach. Mike McDaniel comes in, he's got a lot of confidence. The guy's building him up, and look at how he plays after he's got a guy he trusts in the building with him.
Right.
I mean, has had the talent the whole time, and I think it was pretty obvious. I mean, it was obvious to me. I felt like he was a great player, had a lot of potential to be good in the NFL. Just needed that right fit, and he's finally got it. And there's so many guys out there that don't make it, that have that talent, that just don't find that right fit, and it's so important. So I mean, a lot of it falls on you, and a lot of it, there is a lot of luck involved. There's no doubt about it.
What's the luckiest thing that happened to you when you were kind of getting, from St. Paul's to Florida State to Alabama? I mean, like when you look back and go, man, that was a break right there that got you to where you wanted to be. I mean, and I watched and it's with that saying that, okay, the one thing people can, when they watch this show, that they can know is that we love Alabama. We both love Alabama. Like I love Alabama. I told you my nephew's a student. He got scholarships everywhere in the country. I said, don't ask me if you don't want to come to Alabama. I didn't want to ruin, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to keep him from Chapel Hill or Texas or wherever, but don't ask me. And he's there. He's a freshman right now. Okay. I love Alabama. My sister went to Alabama because of me. And he's there, and I mean, you're in here right now. Yeah. We love, and you love Alabama. I mean, you won the championship, and
love Alabama.
Dude, like watching the video, I'm like, this guy loves Alabama too. Like more, like this is enormous. Like but that's in our hearts, man. Like it's not another university to us. This isn't just like, hey, I played here, I played there. No. I started at Maryland.
Pride and passion.
You started at Florida State. We got to Alabama, and we knew the minute we got there, we have reached heaven. Right? Is that fair to say?
There's nothing like it. There's no doubt
nothing.
About it. I mean, I go back there, and it's like, I mean, it's so much fun. I mean, that weekend with Coach Saban and Coach Saban's the field dedication and seeing all those guys and seeing former coaches, guys I played with. I mean, it's you just can't beat that camaraderie, that brotherhood. I mean, seeing guys Mike Johnson, saw Julio this weekend, saw all kinds of guys.
Did you talk to Julio?
Yeah.
How's he doing?
I asked him about him turning down Ryan for an autograph.
So the story goes like this. Ryan Anderson, as a high schooler, asked Julio for an autograph, and Julio wouldn't sign.
Robert Lester.
Which Ryan has famously brought up on a number of occasions.
Oh yeah.
Here.
Oh yeah.
That's so funny. What did he say?
He didn't remember it. But Ryan was like,
man, was Ryan standing there?
Oh, Ryan was standing right there.
Ryan
was standing right there, and I walked up to Julio. I was like, "Hey, man, I heard you wouldn't give our boy an autograph."
Ryan loved
Julio
it.
was like, "What?"
Ryan loved it, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Ryan was like, "Oh shit." And anyway, Ryan went into the whole thing, and then Julio was dying laughing. Man, Julio. If people don't know Julio he's genuinely like one of the best players to come out of Alabama.
Oh,
but after meeting him and talking to him, he's truly, to me, one of the best players and people and best representatives of Alabama there is.
I love them, man. I think he's the best receiver ever.
You watch him play in the NFL, the effort that he gives, and just the person that he is. I think he's one of the best all-around players, people to ever come out of Tuscaloosa.
I think he's the best receiver Alabama's ever had. And that's not that's like he's the Mount Rushmore, and everybody else is. And I know Smitty won a Heisman.
Yeah.
Julio's. If I had one guy, it's Julio. I'm taking Julio.
Yeah, you see, had Julio played in 2016, 2017, it'd be for him not to win the Heisman. He'd have been right there. He played in a different era, and I'm not talking about quarterback play. I'm just talking about football in general. Just the way that football was played in his era was just so much different than, later on in Coach Saban's career. That guy, you see him versus a lot of guys. He's bigger than any receiver I've seen at Alabama since him. He's the biggest one, most athletic, just for a guy that size to be that fast and that athletic. It just seems impossible to me. He's just so big and strong and fast. I don't know. There's not very many receivers, if ever, that have been built like that with that kind of physical talent.
We couldn't we couldn't beat LSU, we just couldn't beat them. We couldn't beat Auburn. And I'll never forget 2008 where he caught that pass on the sideline and just stiff-armed a dude and was in the end zone so fast. Game day was there. That was like kind of like when the power shift started,
Yeah. All these receivers are great. Obviously they're
all of
them are,
no doubt.
When you're talking about who's the best, it's like, who
do you think that they're going to get there and say they're better than Julio? Come on, man. I bet you if you asked all of them, they'd be like,
I've thrown to Julio a couple times, and it is almost impossible to throw to him. It really is, because the timing is so much different. And he literally, when we were throwing together, I walked over to him. I was like, "How does Matt Ryan throw you the ball?"
Matty Ice.
We were throwing routes, and like on a skinny post, I'm sitting there. Like, usually it's a quick 5, and you throw the ball, and you throw it on a line to get it to him. And for him, I was like, dude, I can't time it up. He takes like 3 steps, and where most receivers take like 6 steps, and he's at the same landmark. And it's like
crazy,
just
man.
The fastest, longest strides. His reach is so long, and it was so hard to throw to him. And he was like, man, you just got to put a little air on it. so I can just go get it. You just got to throw it around me. I mean, imagine that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't. You're not. You have to throw it a little. You gotta put a little touch on it so that I can just recover and grab it. I mean, I had never thrown to anybody where he was so fast and so long that it made it tough to just put it out there for him.
That's insane, man.
Yeah, it's hard to even put into words what it was like throwing to him because it was just so different. But it would have been awesome to throw to him in real games.
Yeah. Oh no, man. I think Ryan Williams is the next guy. I mean, I'm sold, you know. I mean, and I
think he's the next great. You know, I was standing so when I saw when we were all standing there, we were standing there at the tunnel when they came out, and I had never seen Ryan up close. And he's, what is he, 6'1"?
Sure.
Yeah. But then Julio came out of the tunnel right after the team went out, and I'm standing there looking at Julio, and we're eye to eye, you know, and I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, you know, he's huge.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm 6'5", and he's, you know, right there looking me eye to eye, and just a absolute unit for a receiver.
Oh yeah. But I mean, to think about this guy,
those poor kids in high school that had to guard him.
Hey, think about the guys in high school that don't have to guard him anymore, and he's got 3 touchdowns in college. Like the first 2 teams or 3 teams on the Saraland schedule, like the guy that's the best cornerback. You know, oh, I was gonna get him. Okay, yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, I slipped last year.
Yeah, right. And I don't think, I'm going to ask you this, but I don't even think that his technique's there yet. I think he just kind of.
That's why he's so raw.
Yeah, right,
He's just so raw.
But he just does. He does
17.
stuff. I know, and that's kind of the crazy part. Like, you watch him and you're like, it's just like I remember when Smitty was his first year at Alabama. And we had that game against Mississippi State. He caught the game-winning touchdown, and it was like, you know, this guy's okay, you know. And then you would see the growth and all that stuff. This guy's 17. He's caught 3 touchdowns already. Like, he's the top receiver on the team, and it looks like kind of like he's just doing it. Like, he doesn't really look smooth yet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean by that?
Well, he's not
polished.
Well, he's just not built yet. I mean, he's still a high schooler.
But you know what I mean? Like it just looks like he's just.
No, but that's exactly it. I mean, it's the core strength of just being built like a college player. I mean, he's built like a young college player now because he's a freak. But I mean, he's 17. When he gets to be 19, 20, of course, he probably won't be playing. He'll probably be in the NFL by the time he's 20, 21, I guess.
Yeah.
But by the time he puts some muscle on, has, you know, a real summer at Alabama, I mean, a spring and summer to get bigger, he's going to be unbelievable because
he's unbelievable now.
When I watch him run routes, the only thing that I could say is that, you know, he could possibly, you know, he could get a little stronger. But I mean, again, he's 17, should be a senior in high school. You know, I mean, it's like, that's if you're looking for something, that's all I could say.
Well, you always got to be looking for something.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be the best at what you do, you always have to be looking for something.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Because in 2015, you're the last team to play Wisconsin. And that was only the second time in school history. So 1928, the big matchup in Wisconsin, and then you guys played them 35-17.
First start in Jerry's world.
Yeah, you played in that game, right?
Yeah, that was my first start.
What do you remember about it? Cool uniform game.
I remember Derrick Henry had guys from Wisconsin lining up on our side in the first half wanting to switch teams.
I remember that story. Yeah, he was pretty hard to tackle. Huh?
Yeah, that was yeah, that was a first. I'd never seen that before. But no, I mean, it was a couple missed opportunities, but I mean, overall, pretty good win. I mean, we went in there, pretty confident. I mean, that team. My first start, I just went in there thinking, complete the ball, no turnovers. Let's manage this game and win it. And I don't know, man. Jerry's World, that's still my favorite place to play.
It really is a fantastic stadium.
Got to play there twice that year too. Played Michigan State in the first round of the playoff too.
Did that help you guys? Like, because I know Saban was really smart about those type of matchups. Like, hey, let's play. If we think that there's a possibility that we might have to go back there, let's just schedule a game there and play.
I don't know if it really helped or not, to be honest with you. I mean, it's because when you're in that game, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
I think us playing in Wisconsin this weekend helps us more than it would us playing them at home, because we're going in as a favorite. I mean, we should beat Wisconsin, but we get to go into a hostile environment where it's you against the world. You got people cussing you, saying God knows what to you from the stands. It motivates you. You're ready to go. I mean, I think when you play in games when you're the favorite at home, when you're Alabama, sometimes you kind of take it for granted, I guess.
Right.
And I don't know, that may sound wrong or you can take it however you want to, but I just think it helps to have, you against the world mentality when you're playing teams. It's just that extra motivation playing somewhere else, and we get to go over to Wisconsin. I'm sure it's going to be like 75 degrees, something you're not used to.
Yeah, right. A little cooler than normal.
Oh, yeah.
Get some of that Spotted Cow beer. You know about Spotted Cow? So when COVID happened and it shut down like everything that we do, I started a beer review show, and people started sending me beer from all over the country.
Yeah.
Now you know this because I gave you one of our beer mugs over there. The Mick and Brick Beer Show.
So what, Spotted Cows from Wisconsin?
Yeah, and it's a great beer. Like they were like, hey, but what happened was people would be like, hey, you got to try this. And Spotted Cow was like really good.
Huh.
Really good. So if you guys are going to Wisconsin for the game, you're going to have to try some Spotted Cow.
My grandmother's from Wisconsin.
Really?
Yep.
Get out of here.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. Grandfather met my grandmother, and they got engaged the first night they met in Wisconsin.
Really?
Yep. Pretty crazy.
Wait, hold on. Say that again now.
World War II, man. It was in the 1940s. So
wow.
Life was a little different back then.
Well, yeah, maybe you
could
just
trust
know.
people back then.
Yeah, right. You just know. Hey, I like what she brings to the table.
Decided to move to Mobile after one night. Yep.
Yeah. It was a hell of a night. Can you imagine trying to explain that now? Look, my great grandparents, I want to say they were married 60 years.
Yeah, that's how long my grandparents were married.
And we would go to their house every Sunday for fried chicken and mashed potato. I mean, like all the Southern stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they made so much food because there were waves of us. Like there were so many people came to their house that not everybody came at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Because they would just keep, fried chicken would just keep frying all day. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because they had a bunch of kids, and then their kids were my grandparents. So they're my great grandparents. And
man, simpler time back then.
And they were 14, and they were like, well, we've been together since we were 14. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, at the time I'm like 7. I mean, I don't know, you get to 14, you're thinking, yeah, I'm just trying to get through sophomore year. This guy, the Gooch, he's trying to take my lunch money every day. I'm not trying to get married right now.
Yeah. I mean, people used to get married after a night of knowing each other, and I guess now you think people are crazy for using dating apps, but just getting married after one night of knowing each other is pretty crazy too.
What do you look for in this game? Like when you think Alabama and Wisconsin, Luke Fickell, we know he's a great coach.
I know he's a great coach, but man, the outings against North Dakota, not North Dakota State, but North Dakota and Western Michigan. I mean, 13-point.
But does that translate? Do you think that translates, or do you think that they're like kind of dialing down? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think 2 games in a row. I skimmed through some of that South Dakota game, and man, I mean, they gashed them pretty good. Seemed like they had the run game going. I'd like to look at the stats, but a lot of explosive plays for. It wasn't like 1 or 2 here. I feel like there was 8 to 10 explosive plays for South Dakota, and it's not like they got the explosive players that we got. I mean,
who's the most explosive player on offense
for us?
Yeah,
I mean, Ryan Williams.
You think so?
Yeah, and then
more than Milroe.
Yeah, I'll correct that. Jalen Milroe is the most athletic guy on the field at all times.
That's what I think too. And
you take into account his size,
and it's
his playmaking ability.
It's that he
carries the ball every play.
Yeah, right. It's that he can go surf or turf. You know what I mean? Like he can go in the air, or he can go on the ground. Yeah. Like, and I get it. Like people worry. I think that the expectations for quarterback at Alabama.
I mean, I think Wisconsin's longest pass play is 50 yards, and it was on basically a trick play,
right?
Where Van Dyke fakes a handoff and tucks the ball, and then the receiver gets behind the defense. He's basically, bluffing a block and then getting downfield, and he tucks it and then throws it, and they score a 50-yard touchdown.
Right.
I think the longest pass play the game prior to that was like 18 yards. I mean, it's just that.
It feels like it's going to be a ass whooping, but I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I mean,
well, you never know in college. I mean, these guys, this is Wisconsin's Super Bowl right here.
Right.
And it's not a joke when guys say that. When you're playing in Alabama, you do get everybody's best game. I mean, that's
right.
That's a fact. There's no doubt about it. And it doesn't matter. It's kind of like Notre Dame. I mean, it doesn't matter if Notre Dame is 6-4 or whatever 3-3. I mean, Northern Illinois is going to play them as well as they can possibly play them.
Right.
I mean, they're going to be focused. They're going to be ready to go. They want to beat Notre Dame, and that's a lifelong memory. And
like Northern Illinois, right?
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's the same way. I mean, Wisconsin's unranked. They've beaten those 2 teams by, I think 13 points in both games. Don't seem to be very explosive. They don't seem to be very physical. But again, it's week 2, and you don't really know much by week 2, and especially nowadays, these teams with all these transfers, you're not going to know much about a team until they've got 5-6 games under their belt and they've played with each other for a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, Auburn. We watched Auburn last week. They lose to Cal. I mean that they shouldn't lose to Cal, but I mean it's still a young season, and again, you got a 12-team playoff. You never know. I mean, again, from what I've seen from Wisconsin, looks like we should cover 16. But again, you can get their best game, and you don't know what to expect. But from what I've seen, my gosh, we ought to beat the hell out of them.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's what you think, right? I mean,
but again, I'm saying that South Florida. The thing about watching that South Florida game, though, is that, I mean, you can see it's just miscommunication issues and lack of execution. It's not a talent thing. It's just lack of execution. It's like if a few plays go the opposite way and that game's completely different. And I know we won 42 to 13 or
16,
42 to 16. I mean, it should have been way.
Were you ever
way
worried?
worse than that earlier than that?
Well, the holdings were, but Mike thought they were pretty legitimate holdings. I thought that if they were going to call like every holding, that they needed to call every defensive holding, because I'm watching our receivers just get mugged. And if they're not going to call it, why would you stop?
I mean, the only one that I saw and I didn't see the one that was called on Jalen's run, the one that the Kobe Prentice pass. I mean, the one he threw to Kobe Prentice where
he fell on the guy.
75 is I mean the guy's falling forward and he just lays on top of him.
Yeah,
I mean that was, I don't know what Mike said about that, but
no, he mentioned that one kind of being questionable.
I mean that one was pretty egregiously bad in my opinion.
Mike's much more diplomatic than me. But I think you can call that stuff like every play. I mean, like it feels like that's the kind a lot of that stuff you can call, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Was the hold on Jalen's run, was that on the backside of the run?
No, it was definitely the guy that was like sealing but I mean, it was just like he had
Formsby every time.
A lot of the times. Yeah.
It seemed like it was him a lot.
Yeah. How do you rebound from like? I'll tell you this, man. I'll say this. Like, I do play by play. I've done it. That's kind of my thing, I remember having games when I started that I was terrible, and I did a game with Tom Hart one time, and I was like, walked out of the booth, and I was like, if I don't get better and this is what I'm competing with, I should just go sell cars or something,
Yeah.
And it was kind of a motivator for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a great play-by-play guy. But it helped me become better too, because I was like, man, if this is what the standard is, and I knew Tom was going to be really good. He already was, and he still is. You have to look yourself in the mirror sometimes. And I mean, I remember for like a solid week or two, me being like, it was like this.
Yeah.
And it was like, how am I going to get to that? How am I going to get there? And then all of a sudden you start just to get obsessed with making changes to what you do to be better.
Yeah.
To me, anyway, I don't know how it is playing football, but I'm just going to tell you, just as a sports broadcaster.
I mean, as an offensive lineman, I don't know, because it's so much, to me, it's so much about, being mobile and having good feet. I mean, to me, how you avoid holds is getting your feet in the right position and, being a barrier without using your hands. I mean, I don't know how you fix that in 1 week, unless you're watching film and you see a guy and exactly how to, what he's doing before the snap. I mean, you've seen him line up in that position. You've seen how they pressure in certain situations, and exactly where they're coming from. I don't know how you improve that much over 1 week, unless you just weren't prepared this week.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I think that hearing Mike say, hey, reminds me of this guy. I think he said Matt Womack, and he said he's going to be fine. Yeah. He was like, look, I've had these games. Yeah. You guys can go watch the All-American report.
In terms of the offensive lineman,
that's a tough job,
Mike's
man.
the guy you got to ask, because, I mean, when you're playing quarterback and you're you're unsure of where guys come from, and it's like watching that game last weekend. It's sometimes it seemed like Jalen was a little uncertain of where it was coming from, and I could, watching some of those fronts, I could see that, because you are uncertain sometimes when you got 5, 6 guys on the line of scrimmage and they all look like they're coming.
Yeah.
You kind of just based on watching film, you kind of got to understand, what they usually do in this certain situation versus, this personnel and this alignment. And, if you're not prepared for that, then you're not going to know where they come from. And then when you point out your hots, it's very hard for receivers to see who's coming at that point and who's dropping out. And so there's a lot of miscommunication there, because it's a lot to see in a little bit of time. And to go from running, say, a seam route to a slant or a quick out, that's a lot of processing and very little time, especially when you hadn't played with a guy but one game.
How do you do? Like, I'm watching Milroe,
and then some of those times they've got enough people to block, and then you watch the tackle in the back block the same guy,
right?
And then they leave a free rusher off the edge, and Jalen takes a sack, and it's like, well, Jalen thinks that he's got it picked up, and he should,
right?
But it's a blocking issue rather than a quarterback issue. And so, and then, when you have looks where you don't have it picked up and you thought you did, and then sometimes you did have it picked up but they didn't block it right, and then you're thinking, all of a sudden you get into a position where you're like, oh shit, I'm coming off now. Then you're coming off reads quicker than you should, because you think you got to get the ball out quicker, and you're moving on to the next read when you shouldn't, and that's why I say these games, that when guys are bringing everything they've got, and it kind of gets your communication off a little bit. They're doing things that they wouldn't normally do against, Central Florida or somebody else. They don't care if they lose. They kind of know they're going to lose, and they're throwing the kitchen sink to make a name off themselves on Alabama.
Yeah, right.
And so, there's a lot to adjust to, and again, you got young guys in there, Ryan Williams, and Kobe Prentice has been around for a few years, but he hadn't been that guy, I feel like, over the last couple of years. And so a lot of these guys are just learning and trying to figure it out pretty quickly. And so we've been talking about this all offseason.
Yeah.
I have said it, I don't know how many times. You're not going to know who Alabama is until after week 6.
Yeah, look, I said the same thing. I was on a show, and I said, until I see them play Georgia, I don't even know what this game even means, other than you just got to go take care of business. But you got the big bad wolf waiting on you at the house. How are you going to handle that? Because the Kirby, I can tell by the way he's talking, they don't respect DeBoer. So you're going to have to go punch him in the mouth. But you got to get there first. You can't worry about, I got to worry about Georgia and after an off week. And then no, you got to take care of business now.
Yeah.
Then you got to go in and take care of this. They're like the champ that loses every time.
Yeah. And
like every time they lose to Alabama, and then they're still the champ. Like, what are you talking? What world is it that you lose to another team all the time, or you will lose to another person all the time, and people still think you're the champ?
Yeah.
They got away with it the one year because, and Nick Saban talks about it, because they didn't put that team with Bryce Young in the playoff. They put that scrubby TCU team in. Yeah. Georgia would have lost to Alabama that year. Guarantee it.
Well, we played 4 times since Coach Smart was the coach, and we're 3-1, right?
Yeah, 3-1, and had all the injuries. And look, that's the way it works sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's right. But again, to go back to the point of not knowing where the rush is coming from, and if you've got it picked up or not. There's a clip of that I've seen, I don't know how many times, with Peyton Manning. He's having one of those games where he's just getting hit nonstop.
Was it against the Ravens?
I
Let's hope so.
but he's getting ready to throw, and he's about to get hit, and he closes his eyes, and it's, as a quarterback, a lot. I mean, anybody who's playing and you're playing in games, it means something. I mean, I feel like pretty much every quarterback's thrown in the face of pressure and is able to focus. But when you don't know where it's coming from and you don't feel comfortable or don't feel like you're on the same page with the guys that are blocking for you, and
that's a tough thing.
Hits are coming out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and you're just you're sitting back there like, shit, I hope I got time, and I hope everybody's got this. We're all on the same page. I mean, it is nerve-wracking, just sitting in there and being like, all right, I got to hold on to it, and just get it out, hold on to it just long enough to get it out. And then, you're throwing and you feel people around you, but you don't know if it's blocked or not.
What's that like? Is it, I always thought that playing quarterback probably feels a little bit like Any Given Sunday. That movie where the veteran quarterback gets hurt, and it's just kind of like, it just feels like it's so fast back there.
It is fast, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like just another level of quickness. Although if the thing about the blitz is that if you start burning them on the blitz, they'll stop doing it.
Yeah, for the most part, unless it's South Florida and they don't.
But the thing about it was, it's not like they were getting burnt. They were in the backfield all the time. Like, it was a couple runs here and a pass here, but like that kept them in the game.
Yeah. I mean, but again, it's not like we're some well-oiled machine right now.
Yeah,
we got a bunch of great players. There's no doubt about it. We got as good of players as anybody. I mean, you throw Ohio State out there, Alabama out there. I mean, Tennessee's getting there. Georgia. When you line up player for player, I mean, I think we're as talented as anybody, but again, when you haven't played with each other and you don't have that trust and you don't have that communication factor like Georgia has right now because of continuity with Kirby Smart, your team's just not as good yet. I mean, you don't have that foundation yet. And that's my opinion, but I mean, it just takes time. And I mean, hell, we went through a month or probably 3 weeks. How long did we go without Kalen DeBoer? And then he's building a new program.
Oh yeah, it's 48 hours.
It was 48 hours.
Yeah, or something like that. I mean, like, it wasn't very long, but the guys that I love Caden Proctor. He's become one of my favorite players just because he came back and he's like, I should have listen to the guy, and I get that. We've all been there. Like, everybody's leaving. Oh, like the sky's falling, and then you go somewhere else. And you said this, you think you get there, and then all of a sudden you don't have the same amenities. Wait a second. Where's my chef?
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to make my steak medium.
Man, let me tell
this isn't a medium rare steak.
I saw Jeff Allen this weekend, too. I mean, it really and truly is. I mean, you got guys don't realize how good it is until they leave Alabama. And it's so funny. I mean, I saw those guys this weekend, and it was, Dominic Jackson, me and him were talking about it on the sideline.
I always liked him, man. As a player, I don't know him as a person.
Oh yeah, he was telling that we were laughing about that Coach Siskey story about him getting rolled out to the tarmac.
Yeah,
get back up.
Love that story.
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, that shit wouldn't happen anymore."
Hey man, Coach Saban got here. He was ready to dominate the state.
Dominate everything about it.
Hey, we at that point when Auburn was doing this to us, it didn't matter what we needed to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The board's here, and we just expect it now.
Yeah.
We need about 5 straight losses to Auburn and all the heckling. I was talking about a guy that I know that wouldn't go to work after we lost to Auburn the one year where they sacked Brody 12 times. Like, he just wouldn't go to work because he didn't want to hear all the Auburn fans. That's a true story. Can you imagine being Brody?
Yeah, or you imagine him being in traffic and saying the honk if you've sacked Brody.
I remember, man. I was there. We got out of there early. He got sacked like twice more while we were just trying to get down Wire Road. We had the best seats too, and I've been there a few times. I'm not a big fan of them. I hate them. Put it like that.
Yeah.
But that game, we were like behind Bama's bench, like I want to say like 6 or 7 rows. We had great seats. By the time we got to our seats, he'd already been sacked like 3 times. And we got out of there, and he was getting sacked more. Saban got there, all that shit ended.
Yeah, that was a rough time.
Do you remember those days?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was just the Cadillac and Ronnie Brown days, and
if we would have had a decent program that wasn't in trouble, I think Cadillac would have came to Alabama. I think he grew up a Bama fan. But what you get on probation, and it's those guys aren't coming.
Killer. It's a killer.
Now, if you do something wrong, you just threaten the NCAA, you're going to sue them, and they just
yeah, I'm entitled to that money.
Yeah, right. Well, look, final thoughts before we bid farewell on this episode of Elephant in the Room, which, by the way, we're closing in on show 100. This is show 96. It's crazy.
Time's flown.
Isn't it? I mean, it's nuts because I never would have thought, like, when they paired us up, that we would be like 96 episodes right now. I mean, it's been fun, but you just never know with this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's been a blast, dude.
Yeah. Hey, me too. I figured we might be fired after
We've been on the verge, I think, a few times. There was one time that I thought for sure we were getting fired, and we got promoted.
When I started telling stories about snakes, I thought it was over.
Yeah, that was a great episode. Man, that's been so much fun. I can't even. It's really like this, like those milestone shows or whatever. But we're closing in on episode 100. It's been fun, and it's honestly, dude, like just from a technical standpoint, watching you grow as a broadcaster has been fun.
Oh man,
you've gotten so much. I mean, you're really good at it. But from being like
it.
No, everybody's watching those. You have, like, it's not that you were ever bad, but now you're like, I listened to you on the tailgate show, and I'm like, I'm just kind of like, I kind of take credit for your success. I taught him everything he knows. Because it's so good, man, and then you're good on here. So congratulations on that 100 episodes. We're like a week away from 100 episodes.
I never thought I'd be doing this. That's for sure. Never thought I'd be doing it, but this is the right atmosphere for me. Yeah.
Well, we got a big game on Saturday, and then we'll get back together again next week, and we'll break it down. When Alabama plays Georgia, for those of you guys that are going to be there, the tailgate show will be at Innisfree, I think like 1 to 4 on Friday. So you're going back.
Do we have one during the off week?
No. Come on now. You're trying to make us work more. Like they always ask, and I'm like, I got.
I mind having a 2-hour shit talk session about all.
I'm like, Jake's busy. Like, if you want to do one, we'll do one. I don't care. But what I will say is that it's going to be a huge audience, and we'll be at Innisfree on Friday from 1 to 4. So swing over there. That you get to hang out with your guys, Tripp and Sneed.
Oh yeah.
I know you're excited about it.
Be like a 10-year reunion of our own.
There he is. And the good thing is we have a bar tab. Roll Tide.
Oh, I love some Innisfree.
Yep. All right, guys. Look, Alabama, Wisconsin. We'll be on covercrimson.com after the game with the post-game show. So make sure that you plan on coming and hanging out. We'll take your calls. We'll talk about what happened, all that stuff. And then have an off week, and then it's a battle against Georgia. But you can't look past Wisconsin. This is a really big matchup. They're going to be tough, and I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, it's going to be. This is what you get into college football for these type of games. For Jay Coker, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. The other thing I want to tell you is that the show is brought to you by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Take advantage of the promo code next round, and if you do that, you get double your initial deposit. So if you're a hot hand like Coker over here, you go in, double your initial deposit, hit a couple, boom, and all of a sudden now you've 4 times your initial deposit. But it's fun. I'm not saying put your mortgage on it. I'm just saying for us to just kind of enjoy making it a little bit more exciting when the games are going on. MyBookie.ag. And also covercrimson.com. Be a part of what we're doing. You get one of these right here when you do your annual subscription. We both have one.
Oh, yeah.
And they're fantastic shirts. But be part of what we're doing, man. Roll Tide, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Roll Tide.